Heights is the target of a joint city and state crackdown called Operation Restore.
So a working-class neighborhood here in New York has been taken over by gangs, and residents say they don't even feel safe walking down the street. But although there's been a massive deployment of police officers here, which has led to reductions in crime over the last week, the city has already announced this police surge is temporary. And fearful residents say that once the police leave, the criminal element that's infested their backyards is going to come back.
Residents and business owners say they are fed up with the illegal dumping and trafficking that is happening in front of them every day.
Sadly, there's two sides to Roosevelt Avenue. There's Roosevelt Avenue by day, and there's Roosevelt Avenue by night.
My child and I had to walk through Roosevelt Avenue to go to an event.
The so-called massage parlors, they run 24 hours.
And Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenny says the influx of migrants is fueling the problem. And with that, you see some gang activity.
A new warning about a dangerous Venezuelan prison gang making deeper inroads in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security says members of the notorious Tren de Aragua gang are increasingly drawn to sanctuary cities.
They built their entire enterprise off the backs of over 8 million Venezuelans fleeing Venezuela and other countries in South America. They're going to seize apartments, they're going to seize abandoned buildings, they're going to take over the migrant care centers.
We know that we are in a crisis moment right now.
So local officials are already demanding more assistance in advance of the end of the police surge. But what nobody's talking about is that the gangs exploiting New York's asylum crisis, which is a citywide crisis, have made the problems in this one particular part of town even worse. And what we have here in Queens is a neighborhood that's always had elevated levels of crime because it's been neglected by city leadership for a long time, which has turned what was once a middle-class paradise into a lawless environment ripe for exploitation by a dangerous Venezuelan gang with criminal ambitions beyond anything our leaders ever thought possible, which is a shame.
Yes, it's a damn shame, and basically there's nothing being done about it because the police are scared to, and they don't have enough manpower. It's your boy BOOGOTTINYC, and like I always tell you, you could have went anywhere, but the fact that you came here to chill with me, I appreciate you. Welcome to the bottom line. Also, don't forget
both local residents of this
to go over to the website, www.drinkbigdrip.com, www.drinkbigdrip.com, 14% alcohol by volume. It's your boy BOOGOTTINYC, and like I always tell you, you could have went anywhere, but the fact that you came here to chill with me, I appreciate you. So today we're covering migrant takeovers. We're covering basically what's going on in New York City that's not being told to you guys. We're also trying to speak to you and let you know what's going on with, the current political scope of the world. Got a couple of updates on PDitty and the things that's going on in that area. Just going to give you guys some up-to-date current events, some current news. So with that being said, let's get back to talking about this migrant situation in New York City, because as you can see, these people are trying to make a last-ditch effort to try to make a move before President Trump takes over. This gang is known for going to sanctuary cities and making their presence felt. What they do is they go to certain neighborhoods that are really high in migrant coverage, and they basically extort, do all types of bad things to those people. They've now gotten to the point where they're taking over apartments, apartment buildings, structures, and government buildings that are actually abandoned. It's kind of crazy, but they're saying that the New York City Police Department aren't really covering it because they don't have the manpower. Could this be why our mayor is now joining up with President Trump? Will there be a change? Let's talk about it.
Neighborhood and asylum seekers, because although 212,000 asylum seekers have fled to New York without the intention of joining gangs or committing crimes, they and local residents are now being afflicted by the same gang that's famous for terrorizing many people throughout South and Central America. And now they're doing it again in sanctuary cities all over America, where there are laws which help the lawless evade federal authorities who may be looking for them, which is especially bad once you realize this gang's specialty is human exploitation. Which brings us to the real reason reason why we've got criminal activity taking over middle-class neighborhoods that just won't seem to stop, even during a police surge. This activity is fueled by the influx of asylum seekers to New York City, not because the asylum seekers themselves are bad, but because as a sanctuary city with soft on-crime laws, New York allows bad people to prey on them just as they've been doing outside of America for years. And as you're about to see, after we arrest these gang members, they often get released, but then they go back home, living in a shelter next to the very people they've decided to target. So this long, skinny tower here, it's called the Candler Building. It's a former office. It's been converted into a shelter for asylum seekers. Single adults, holds around 400 people. And although there have been reports of gang activity in facilities like this, if you look around the streets and the immediate area, we don't see the signs of gang activity here like we do across the water in Queens. That's because here in Midtown, there's a big police presence. There are enough resources here to get a handle on crime to a greater extent than there is in an area of the city that has been neglected for years. And residents are worried that once the police pull out after this 90-day surge ends, which is already almost half over at this point, that the criminal element that had set up shop there and had taken over is just going to come right back.
The 2-mile stretch of Roosevelt Avenue that runs through Jackson Heights is the target of a joint city and state crackdown tackling quality of life issues and crime. But on Wednesday, lawmakers unveiled a 7-point plan to improve the...
So this particular part of town, Roosevelt Avenue in Queens, when I went there to check things out for myself to see what it was actually like, I was shocked. For a few reasons.
I was too, because of the simple fact that they're allowing a lot of criminal activity to go on in Roosevelt Avenue, as far as drugs, illegal sex, prostitution, internal sales, all types of crazy stuff is going on over there. And it's sad because the police, they leave at night, and then in the daytime it's safe, but most of the crime happens at night. It's very sad. So these gangs are trying to make their last minute ditch efforts to try to do whatever they can do before the president takes over, because they know that ICE is going to be cracking down. Sad part about it is there's not a lot of police to handle the surge. As you can see, there's people that are selling stuff in the street, all on the sidewalk illegally. There's people milling about because they have absolutely nowhere to go and nothing to do. They do not have papers, so they cannot work. So basically, you're paying the bill for these people to be in the city.
First, the whole place felt like an outdoor market where you could buy just about anything because everything was being sold in some form or another on the sidewalk. Also, all the people that I saw, they all appeared to be well-meaning and nice. And although you could kind of tell that what was going on definitely wasn't by the book, you didn't feel like you were in a poverty-stricken part of town. No, it definitely felt like a middle-class neighborhood. It still retains that. And one big difference between this part of town and Midtown, where we are right now, is that I didn't see any unhoused individuals or anybody who was visibly using a substance on the side of the street that they shouldn't be using. But one thing's for sure, when you look in the windows of some of the nearby businesses, you see signs and photos of people who they say have stolen things from them. There's a definite theft problem at a lot of the legitimate shops there, and as it turns out, those items are being resold on the streets, in some cases in front of the very businesses that were just robbed. There have been articles written about this. Apparently all of this stuff comes from stores, department stores, many local businesses in the area, and this is where the gang connection to some of the crime that's going on here really starts to come out, because you've got stuff that's been stolen from Macy's, that's been stolen from Home Depot, and it's kind of like all the stolen goods that get taken from anywhere in town wind up over there and are being resold by people who, according to the New York Post...
This is why Walmart, Dwayne Reed, majority of our stores is going out of business. When you go into a pharmacy or you go into a store to try to buy something, 9 times out of 10, Even if you're trying to get deodorant, you're gonna have to press a button and wait for security to come over and open the door for you. Do you guys think this is a good situation? Let me know what you feel about this in the comments. They go in the store, they might see some Dove, they come outside and they sell it. Would you buy it? It's cheaper. What's your comments? Let me know.
In many cases, recently came to this country as asylum seekers. And as you observe these outdoor markets and how they operate, you can get the sense that there are people watching out for police in case they decide to show up. You've also got vans that have merchandise inside of them with the doors open, which could conceivably be quickly closed if there were a police raid or some sort of increased police presence on the block. And some of the women that I saw selling tools that came out of suitcases on the side of the sidewalk, well, they got those suitcases from men who handed them to them. And that's where things started to click, that there are many forms of possible exploitation going on out there in broad daylight, and it all can be traced back to these gangs operating in the very shelters that are supposed to help people.
We know that we are in a crisis moment right now.
The plan calls for a number of major changes, including more inspections and enforcement by city and state agencies, better lighting under the elevated 7 line, and requiring hotels and...
So residents here, they're really worried, and they're worried because they understand that once the police surge that is here, which has already been announced as temporary, ends, the criminal element is just going to come back. And now they've got a 7-point plan to try and fix their neighborhood, which requires permanent solutions from the city. And what they want is a constant presence of city resources in their neighborhood at all times, just like here in Midtown, near many of the shelters where asylum seekers are staying. They want their neighborhood to look and feel just like this one, which isn't neglected by the city, even though it's in the exact same city. And even though we're dealing with a gang of criminals that are experts in human exploitation, they can't get away with the stuff that they do in Queens down here. Midtown is completely the opposite of the problems these residents of this middle-class neighborhood are dealing with. Yet in Queens, we see their illegal businesses all over the place operating in physical structures where there might be a license that says the business is legitimate when in fact it isn't. Here's photos of a recent raid. The Venezuelan gang we're talking about here is Tren de Aragua, and they'll do what they can to exploit everyone they come into contact with, which is very bad news for a city like New York that is a sanctuary city dealing with a massive humanitarian crisis. And the asylum crisis here is an opportunity for this gang that has not been lost upon them. They don't just locate victims in these shelters, they also find new members in them as well. They forcefully recruit people to do their dirty work all over town. And they tell people that if they don't join their gang as foot soldiers or workers of some kind, they will go after their families back home in Venezuela. And if there's a type of crime that can be committed in a city like New York, you can bet they're involved in it. There have been reports of robbery crews disguised as delivery riders marauding through the streets, stealing things from people on sidewalks.
Okay, since snitching is no longer considered a bad thing, do you think it's good that if regular common day citizens start snitching on these people for a small reward? Let's say, for instance, all of the businesses get together, and what they do is this. They say, look, we've been getting robbed. We've been getting our stuff stolen from us. What we want you to do is be our eyes and ears once the stuff gets outside. How about you guys call and we have a task force that comes along and snatches up all of this stuff. We'll pay for it. Similar to what the clothing companies are doing in Chinatown. And that would basically deter people from setting up on the street. They'll probably still do it. But 9 times out of 10, when they know common citizens might get a reward of $100 for pointing them out, they might not want to do something like that. It's getting to the point where we got to get our citizens involved if they're really trying to make a difference, because as you can see, it's not enough police. I know you're probably not the type of person that wants to get involved, don't want to be called the S word, a snitch or whatever like that. Totally understandable. May not be a job for you. Could be a job for somebody else. I'm just thinking outside the box. What do you guys think of something like that? Because as long as this continues to happen, we're going to lose stores. Prices are going to continue to go up. And basically, you're going to have to walk 5 and 6 blocks to get a stick of deodorant, which is what I wind up having to do now, because the local stores, it's really hard for them to keep open with the rent, with the people stealing, and they don't really have anybody that's coming in to buy anything because the economy is so bad. So it's like a 360, a gambit of stuff going on out here, guys. What do you feel about this situation? Leave your comments in the below. I'll definitely follow up with you and respond and see what you guys are thinking about and what's on your mind about the situation with the migrants in New York City, as well as all the other sanctuary cities out there that seem to be protecting them.
And when you see a woman who is on the side of the street pulling things out of a suitcase or backpack that a man handed to her, and then she starts selling them to people, you've got to wonder, is she doing that by choice? Is that what she really wants to do? Or is she forced to be in that situation? It looks terrible. But what residents of Queens want in their 7-point plan is to make sure that all of the businesses in Roosevelt Avenue are licensed, and that the streets are adequately clean, and that there is enforcement of unlicensed street vending. And those would all be good things, because allowing unlicensed street vending sets up an avenue for exploitation that this gang can use. And it's the same thing with the illegal businesses. If you're going to allow those to operate and commit crime in broad daylight, they're only going to multiply.
And requiring hotels and massage parlors to obtain licenses in order to operate.
Right now, there's no licensing for hotels. That is where criminal activity thrives, in unlicensed hotels.
Now, in order to move this plan forward, the community leaders say...
So the mere idea that you could have an unlicensed hotel on the side of the street that is not actually a hotel, but looks like one from the outside and has people coming in and out of it on the side of the street, that's extremely frightening. Especially when you read stories about how this TDA gang is directly involved with human smuggling operations that take place outside of the United States. And it reveals that by having bad people live in our shelter system, the entire purpose of that system is invalidated. Because if the goal of these facilities is to help people get on their feet and take their shot at the American dream, how exactly do they go about doing that when criminals live down the hall from their family? There's nothing humane about it.
Now, top of the list of real problems that Trump may well move on is immigration. It could be his first major legislative initiative. Now, given that this crisis has been evolving over the years, I wanted to kind of break down how we got here, okay? Kind of looking at the last 3 presidents as what they faced when they came in and what they did with that, all right? Let's start with border crossing. So let's get the graphics going. Obama, we'll start with him. He left office 400,000 illegal border encounters. In Trump's first year, border crossings dropped to a record low of 300,000. Why? Tough talk on immigration, which served as a deterrent. In his last year, and then he had the home country agreements where he was facilitating deals where people kept processing in their own borders, within their own borders. His remain in Mexico, pressuring Mexico to put troops on the border with Guatemala and the border with the U.S. His last year, border encounters were at 400,000, okay? Now, why'd they go back up? Because the demand returned, okay? Now, you go to Biden. And Trump had set up Title 42, okay, which slowed down asylum because of the pandemic. That helped. In Biden's first year, though, border crossings skyrocketed to 1.7 million. Why? Wasn't talking tough about immigration, much more welcoming. There was a lot more instability in Latin America. There was a stronger U.S. economy post-COVID. You know, don't sleep on COVID as a factor in this. People weren't coming here because they were afraid of getting sick, or they were sick, and there weren't the same jobs, okay? And that was a big factor in suppressing the demand when Trump was in office, okay? Now, with a stronger economy, without COVID, you see crossings are like 5 times higher than when Trump left office. So what has he done? He has pledged to deport millions of illegal immigrants from the country. So let's compare how each president handled deportations. Obama's administration deported 240,000 migrants in 2016, but their enforcement policy focused, as does Biden's, on targeting criminals, not just those who only cross illegally. When Trump took office, his administration adopted a zero-tolerance policy, meaning everybody is seen as the same level of transgression.
How do you guys feel about this? And looks like in the time that from when Obama was the president here, it looks as if there were over, what is that? Look at the difference, y'all. Look at this. 1.7 million in 2021, 2.4 million in 2022, 2.5 million in 2023. They are on course to keep that going in 2024 if we weren't going to change the administration. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. That's about 9 million people right there under just the Biden administration alone. 2 million under Trump's from 2017 and to 2022. This is a shame. This is terrible. And it also shows why the economy is doing so bad. We've got too many people in the country. And then you've got an overexertion in certain neighborhoods, which just basically can't take on the excess amount of people. The hospitals in Arizona, the homeless shelters in New York City are just at capacity. The hospitals are taking care of migrants and illegals before they can even take care of women who are giving birth in Arizona. A lot of the people that live in Arizona have to take flights to San Francisco in order to give birth. That's not fair, especially when you and me, we're the taxpayers. What do you guys think about that?
The Biden administration changed its enforcement policies, allowing agents to target migrants who also cross the border illegally. Deportations, of course, pop to 140,000. Migrants are coming to this country knowing that if they come and claim asylum, they can stay thanks to, in my opinion, a broken asylum system. 3 million migrants have pending cases. They wait on average 4 years just to get an asylum hearing. And remember, they're almost all released on their own recognizance, catch and release. So why would you come back if you know you're going to get thrown out? And that is what the system experiences. The question now is, what can Trump do to solve this crisis? And we have somebody who does not fit into the definition of people who are a head scratcher as to why they've been given the position by Trump they've been given. The man that we have tonight is arguably better than any man he could have picked within his reach, okay? Incoming border czar Tom Homan. It's good to have you, Tom.
All right, so you heard about print on demand and you started your own Etsy or Redbubble shop. Then you made...
Thanks for having me, Chris.
The way I laid it out, pretty straight?
Yeah, there are a few things I disagree with you with, but I think it's more important, and you look at the numbers on the Biden administration, I care more about the numbers he released in the country more than I care about the deportation, because he released millions of people into the country where President Trump didn't.
And that is because, and please feel free to correct whatever assertions I made you don't agree with. You're the boss. But that is because Biden changed the definition of who the men and women doing enforcement should be looking for, correct?
No, that'd be ICE. He has changed the definition of who ICE should be looking for. He's made it clear, Secretary Mayorkas made it clear to ICE that being in the country illegally on its own without a criminal charge, if you're not a public safety threat or a national security threat, they're off the table. So they changed who ICE was looking for. But as far as the Border Patrol, they went from ending catch and release that the Trump administration had to releasing millions of people to the country. That's really the difference. And I blame that on ending the policies that were proven effective in the Trump administration. Look, I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. I've seen hundreds of policies come and go. I know what policies work, what policies doesn't. Love or hate Trump, the Remain in Mexico program was a game changer. People can still claim asylum, they wait in Mexico. That was a game changer, and after a few months, people stopped coming. Because when they realized they weren't going to be released in the United States, they weren't going to spend all their money, giving it to the criminal cartels, only to wait in Mexico. So, by doing that, by moving immigration that low to a 45-year low, less migrant deaths across the border, less women being sexually assaulted by the cartels. It had a really positive effect in the Remain in Mexico program.
All right, so the difference is that. What do you guys feel about that? Do you feel that there's going to be a big change when it comes down to the border? That now that we have a real new border czar that Trump put back into office that actually had experience? Here we go. What we got here? Jose. Trump is pure blah, blah, blah. Like other, whatever you wrote. Blah, blah. Speak and do things total different. Trump is one for the ja. Okay. So, okay, Jose feels that Trump is just talking trash and that nothing's going to really come out of this and that the new border czar don't really know what he's talking about. How do you guys feel? Do you feel the same way? Let me know. There's a lot going on right now when it comes down to this border. Everybody has their own opinion, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But what I do want to do, let's get into some hip-hop entertainment news to see what you guys think.
First question is personal. You did the job. You just let people or reminded people how long you did the job. You were the acting director already. You then went into retirement after doing the job for the Trump administration for a while. They had your Senate confirmation up there. You didn't have to be confirmed originally because you were next in line for the job within the same agency. They pulled the confirmation. You retired. Why are you back?
Because I care. You know, Chris, I've done this. I started as a border patrol in 1984, so I know what it's like to wear that uniform. And when I joined ICE, 1989, I spent decades with ICE. I was the first ICE director that actually came up through the ranks. So the 20,000 men and women that reported to me, I never asked them or told them to do anything that I didn't do myself because I was one of them. I care. And I care because of the tragedies I've seen on the southwest border. You know,
If you've been waiting for a sign to try Ready Mag, this is it. This is your sign. Your sign to start creating juicy
Another interview is resurfacing, giving us a look inside the world of Sean Diddy Combs. The rapper's infamous party lifestyle seems to have been an open secret in the entertainment industry, and celebrities were often asked about their interactions. Giving us a look inside the world of Sean Diddy Combs. The rapper's infamous party lifestyle seems to have been an open secret in the entertainment industry, and celebrities were often asked about their interactions with the music mogul. We're going to take a look at what artist Machine Gun Kelly had to say about a 2-day party fest with P. Diddy. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Rumors, allegations, strange stories, they just pre-planned prostitutes and would have sex with whoever Combs wanted. Ventura claims that Combs used various drugs like marijuana and ecstasy to keep her compliant, forced her to perform sex acts with these sex workers on film. And while these so-called freak-offs are at the center of federal racketeering and sex trafficking charges that he currently faces, Combs' parties in general are what he's been known for over the years. It seems to have been an open secret in Hollywood and beyond that a Diddy party was bound to not only be swanky and exclusive, but also pretty wild. Be clear, though, not necessarily criminal, right? There could be wild parties where there were no crimes that were being committed, but they were wild, they were infamous. And let me just say this again, to be very clear. As we sit here today, Sean Combs is innocent. He is innocent until proven guilty. And he hasn't been found liable either in any lawsuit that he faces. But, I should say maybe as of yet, we'll see where it goes. But I want to go back to the parties. Combs was famous, of course, for his white parties, these
my luck, right? He says he's sleeping at his manager's mom's sofa or something. He's down on his luck. He doesn't know what his next move is. And Sean P. Diddy Combs says, come to Vegas and come to this party. That is an already coercive environment. You add into that, or at least a power imbalance, right? Even if he wants to be there, you add into that, I think I'm taking one drug because I want to go home. He gives me another drug that forces me to stay. I think that that is actually problematic when it comes to the issue of consent and also informed consent when it comes to whatever substances people are taking. And although it's not a one-to-one, you know.
Yeah, so I wanted to skip to this part because Machine Gun Kelly did come out and say that, you know, he was influenced by P. Diddy. And if you see the way he changed, he's no longer a rapper anymore. That would beg the differ to make you think, like, why all of a sudden did Machine Gun Kelly get out of hip hop altogether? He's doing like electro or like emo music now. He got a song, I'm in love with an emo girl. I believe that's Willow Smith. She's actually on that song. So this is pretty crazy because he not only influenced and did bad stuff with hip hop artists like Black Rob, 112. All of these other rappers and groups like The Band and everybody, but now crossover artists is talking about him and saying stuff about him, how he's crazy. He's done numerous things to different people. So there's no limit to actual race or anything like that when it come down to P. Diddy. Real talk. You know what I'm saying? So I have no idea, what sort of drug he may have given him to make him feel as if he couldn't feel in control of his body anymore. But if y'all look at these images from the beginning of Machine Gun Kelly and you look at how he used to look, you can see a major change in the guy because he definitely wasn't, looking like that the whole time. They got some shots here, Cassie. They got him looking like, Machine Gun basically is looking like, look at this. We talking about going from a hip hop rapper that was battling with Eminem to that, and then to this. And it looks like the Empire State Building because I know the city in back and I know that machine right there. That's the scope that you look at to see the buildings. So that's basically telling me that, he doesn't look crazy here. He just got pink hair. That's cool. Actually looks a little healthy or whatever like that. But then when you get down to times like, this here, it makes you wonder, what's going on with the kid, But yeah, that's basically where it is right now. And this guy here has been behind a lot of people's demise. A lot.
Has any further information, please come forward. They want to talk to people. I don't know if people will necessarily talk. So without calling him to the stand to testify, placing him under subpoena, giving him the opportunity to, have an attorney to try to quash that subpoena, I wouldn't see someone like MGK being volunteering to come forward and to speak to law enforcement or the prosecutors without being forced to do so. And I think that might apply to a lot of people, especially if they don't know if they could potentially have some type of criminal liability.
They're worried about the criminal liability. They're also worried about the fact that they will be alienated. They're going to be blacklisted, and a lot of people are going to feel like they can't do business with them anymore. So it's a crazy world that we're in. Entertainment, politics. It's a lot going on out there. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what I see and what's going on. Don't want to take up you guys too much of your time. As you know, y'all can always go to www.drinkbigdrip.com. Go ahead and get yourself a 4-pack to show support. Raspberry, lemon, 14% alcohol by volume. This is an alcoholic drink, y'all. www.drinkbigdrip.com. Also got merch, sweatshirts, and all that. It's your boy Bugatti NYC, and like I always tell you, you could have went anywhere. But the fact that you came here to chill with me, I appreciate you. So till tomorrow, get 'em! 1.